Now you see in front of you the OWC Mercury Elite Pro Dual. This is a 2 hard drive enclosure. I bought it empty and bought my own drives, which is far cheaper than buying it directly from OWC with drives. Now we see on the back there are 4 holes, but only 2 screws. You may not be able to see that, but I think this is about the best I'm going to do. Never fear, the additional screws should be inside the enclosure. Why didn't I get a magnetized mat much sooner than this? Okay, now with those 2 screws removed, we can simply slide out the inside of the enclosure. And exactly as advertised, the other screws. Take them out and put them on the plastic mat, except for this one, which does not want to come out. Okay, so these 2 smaller screws, once we put it back together, there will be 4 screws holding it together, and these others will be to screw the hard drives in. Alright, we have SATA power and SATA data. They are labeled. The 2 data cords are port 1, port 2, and the power cords, similarly, port 1. That doesn't say it, but obviously that has to be port 2. Alright, so that's 1 and data 2. Well, that would seem easy, wouldn't it? Of course, it has to turn over in order to go in. And you, of course, want to make sure you're not crimping those cords as this goes in. Okay, those are free. Alright. Alright, now, that looks good, but these drives must now be screwed in. I see one of the screw holes. You won't really be able to see that. I apologize for that. I think when we get one in, that's good. We get another in. Okay, that's good. Now if we turn it over, yeah, there are the holes, all right. Okay, that's good. And another. All right. So we have one drive properly affixed. We follow the same procedure with the second drive. Power and data. Let's pull that data cord out again. Pass it under so that when it's turned over, less likely to be crimped. All right. Well, almost all right. And we see our holes. I see one. Just trying to get it a little bit better lined up. I think that's pretty good. And that goes. Now, let's see. The directions from OWC would seem to indicate that you put both drives in, connect them, and then screw them in. I think that would be a nightmare. But we're looking good. That's one side. Now for the other. Now we've got one side done. That's right there. With the other three screwed in, be hard to miss. All right. So our drives are connected to their appropriate cords, screwed into the enclosure securely. All right. And now we have 4 screws to hold the interior of the enclosure in place. Come on. Okay, and then one more. All right, now to examine the I/O. This will connect with either USB 3 or with eSATA. Both would be quite fast. I don't have an eSATA card in there. I considered it. And of course there's the power in. Now we have 2 things here. We have the RAID switch. This is a hardware RAID. It is set right now to independent. both drives would read as independent drives. We can set it as RAID 0, or striped, RAID 1, or span. Now I'm going to select span, which will cause the two drives to be read as though they were a single 16 terabyte drive. That I think is going to be the most efficient. It's used for backup. I'm not going to be reading and writing as far as doing projects from this. This is purely going to be used with Time Machine. And there is a set button right there. And according to OWC, that has to be held in while you're powering it up the first time. So I'm going to dig out a small screwdriver to put into there, turn the little arrow, which you may be able to see there, which right now is pointing to IND, turn it down so it's pointing to span, power on the machine, there's the power on the enclosure, and hopefully holding down the set button, and we should then have to initialize the disks. Okay, so that is the end of the first clip, and we will be back with more in just a moment. Well, let's see what happens. Holding in the button. Not seeing anything on the screen. Drive just spinning up. I can feel the vibration. Aha! All right. The disk you inserted was not readable by this computer, which is exactly right. They're not formatted. Okay, I'm going to jump into a screen recording to go with this, so I'll be right back. Start up disk utility. Well, this is pretty cool. There it is, set up and running. I admit, I bought this thing because it does, in fact, look like a little tiny Mac Pro. How cool is that? And of course, with our overall goal of having these two machines equivalently set up, we're very much doing that now. Okay, be back with a couple of last thoughts. Well, okay, there you have it. You've seen the setup of the Elite Pro Dual. Now, the thoughts about review and do I recommend it? The downside, of course, is the setup, the insertion of the drives into the enclosure. Unlike a lot of similar devices where you may screw on a sled or sometimes just slide the drive into a drawer, making it very easy to swap drives as you might need to. This obviously is a little bit more elaborate. So yeah, if you're anticipating the need to change the drives frequently, this is not going to be the best possible choice. But as I say, I'm using it for Time Machine backup. I put new drives into the enclosure, so we should be good for that purpose. The hardware RAID works pretty nicely. Your choices are a little limited. You can leave them as independent drives, span the two as I chose to do, RAID 0, RAID 1. So, yeah, like I said, the choice is a little limited, but then again, with only two drives, there's only so much you're going to do with that. The price is very good. It was a little under $90, I think, and that's buying the enclosure empty. If you can, if you want to avoid the hassle of putting the drives in, You can buy it with drives already in a variety of amounts of storage. However, if you do that, you are paying OWC quite a big premium for those drives. So if you want to be in a budget, the thing to do is very much as I did. Find your own drives, bare, and you can find the best possible price. I found a very, very good deal on those Seagate Barracudas, so it was much better off to do it that way. It certainly saved a great deal of money over paying OWC to put the drives in. I did when I set up the first one, because this, of course, this was the second one that I've done. When I set up the first one, I did encounter some difficulties. I had not realized that you had to hold that setup button in. Yeah, I knew I was going to have to go into disk utility to format the drives. That's normal enough. So, yeah, it was kind of strange. I did, and this is something to keep in mind. I did contact OWC support, sent them an email. Took them a couple days to get back to me, but get back to me they did, and they were of tremendous help. I was very, very impressed with the service that we received from them. And the tech, was going to stay with him. In fact, even told me, email him directly if I ever run into any other problems with OWC equipment. I have used a lot of things from OWC. One that I did have a problem with when I did my first Mac Mini upgrade, I put in a drive, and in that case I did buy the drive from OWC, one of the Mercury SSDs, and their data doubler. So with the 2010 Mac Mini, I took the optical drive out and put in that SSD. Once I got it all back together and plugged in, Disk Utility saw that the drive was there, but I could not initialize it or do much of anything else. Well, I went back and forth. I called, that was a phone call, had a long conversation, and he stayed with me. He was very helpful, very friendly, very knowledgeable. To sum that one up, as it turns out, the problem was not with the data doubler, it was not with the OWC drive, it was a bad SATA flex cable. When I swapped out the SATA flex cable, everything was fine. So, yeah, you live and learn. But still, I was very, very impressed with OWC's support. And that is certainly a consideration. So, yes, if you're looking for an external enclosure, this is a good choice as long as you're not going to be needing to swap out those drives at all frequently. All right, well, we will have some more things coming up. The Mac Pro project, this was one step in it, is winding up rapidly, and we should be pretty much at a conclusion with this, at any rate, by the end of the weekend. Take care, and we'll see you probably tomorrow.